Doctor Strange is about a doctor who discovers his magical powers after suffering a horrible car accident. A self-absorbed egomaniac learning magic. I'm sure he won't mess up literally everything later on. It starts off in a dark temple with some monks who magically tie this guy up and... oh. Yeah, that seems PG-13. Then they tear a page out of a book and leave into fake London, which is basically Inception, and have a fight with this woman. It then switches to Dr. Stephen Strange putting his PPE on wrong. Gloves go on first, dude, and you don't touch your mask with your bare hands. And performs brain surgery, just so you know how good of a doctor he is. Then there's this conversation.
You came to me.
Yeah, well, I needed a second opinion.
You had a second opinion. What you needed was a competent one.
Just to show what an arrogant jerk he is. That night, Strange is getting ready for a party in his really nice apartment, and drives his really nice car like a maniac, just to show what a dick he is. He's also talking on the phone, gets distracted, and crashes his car, like, really bad. So bad, in fact, that Lamborghini wasn't going to give them a car for this until they pointed out how amazing it is that he survived. Well, his hands were screwed. He tries physical therapy, but that doesn't work, but he does hear about one guy who somehow recovered from a spinal injury, because that's not going to come into play later. After a bunch more experiments and being an asshole to his girlfriend...
This isn't the end. There are other things that can give your life meaning.
Like what? Like you?
Goodbye, Stephen.
He seeks out the spine injury guy, and he tells him where he went to get healed. So he goes to Nepal and almost immediately gets jumped, until this dude comes in and saves him, and takes him to the temple. There he meets the Ancient One, and she tells him she convinced the paralyzed man that he could walk without healing him. Of course, this prick doesn't believe her, so she force pushes his soul out of his body. Then pushes him into space, and I guess gives him an acid trip, and then kicks him out. He deserved it. Well, he's been at the door for hours, so they finally let him back in. And the Ancient One teaches him about using the power of the multiverse to create magic, because he's completely not gonna mess all that up later. Later on, he's in the library and learns about the Ancient One's private book, and one about time that had some pages ripped out, and definitely won't be used later. At training, Stephen is struggling to make a portal, so the Ancient One takes him to the top of Mount Everest and just leaves him there. It helped him make a portal, so I guess that's one way to do it. Now, all of a sudden, Strange is an expert on everything, so the Ancient One takes him to the Inception world where he can practice without messing anything up. After learning about magical relics and stuff, Strange is studying time magic, and this jackass decides to use it on an apple in the real world, not in the Inception world. Then he uses it to bring the ripped pages back and almost rips a portal into the dark dimension.
Temporal manipulations can create branches in time. Spatial paradoxes, time loops!
They should have just kicked him out after this. But instead, they tell him about some doors that lead to other sanctums that protect the world from a dark being named Dormammu. And the guy from almost an hour ago, Caecilius, wants to help him take over the universe. And with perfect movie timing, Caecilius shows up and attacks him, and Strange gets knocked into New York. Did they even try with this animation? Anyway, Crystal Face here just happens to go there next. And Strange, who has never been in a real magical fight before, can basically defend himself against him and his goons by throwing them through these fake as hell door portals, and his signature cape saving him. Once captured, Crystal Face starts talking about how he wants to save the world because everyone can live forever in Dormammu's dark dimension. You know, because something called the dark dimension can't be bad at all. Then Strange gets stabbed by a goon, so he portals to the hospital to have his ex-girlfriend save him. He then, for some reason, spirit talks to her and she freaks out. Why is this portal still open? I thought they closed soon after they stopped doing the circle motion thing. But it's open, so the goon's spirit can go through and have this stupid fight. There's seriously no reason for this, other than to create more drama. And for this.
Up the voltage and hit me again.
No, your heart's beating.
Just do it.
Defibrillators don't work that way. They only work if there's no heartbeat detected. But it does, just so this bullshit can happen. Then he takes Christine to the closet, and why the hell is this portal still open? And why the hell did it just now close? These stupid things don't have any rules, do they? Crystal Face is gone, and now Mordo and the Ancient One show up. Then Strange calls her out for using the Dark Dimension to live longer, and she leaves so she doesn't have to be part of this Inception fight with Crystal Face and his goons. By the way, their connection to the Dark Dimension makes them stronger in the mirror direction, because screw it, why not?
This was a mistake.
No, really? Now the Ancient One shows back up just to get stabbed and kicked back to the real world. So Strange takes her to Christine so she can save her too. While she's having surgery, Strange and the Ancient One have a spirit conversation about power and responsibility. And then she dies. The Crystal Gang is going after the Hong Kong Sanctum now. But back in London, Mordo is all sad about the Ancient One using the Dark Dimension's power, but Strange convinces him to fight anyway. And I guess they started without them. I guess everyone forgot to take the time medallion from Strange, so he uses it to turn back time, but for some reason the Crystal Gang can overcome it. I really have no idea how that works, but it's just so they can have another dumb fight. Eventually Crystal Face knocks Strange out and it freezes time. Good job, idiot. So Strange flies into this acid trip to talk to Dormammu, but Dormammu just kills him. But Strange uses the time medallion to create a time loop starting from just before he went to him, because I guess the time loop works outside of time. I'm not even going to try to figure that one out. And they just keep going over the same minute over and over again, until Dormammu agrees to take the Crystal Gang, leave Earth, and never come back. At least they get what they wanted. Then Strange fixes time and acts like what they did wasn't a bad thing. So Mordo gets all pissed off and leaves. So I guess Strange and his broken watch are Sorcerer Supreme now. And just for sequel bait, some months later, Mordo tracks down the paralyzed guy and takes his power because there's too many sorcerers or something. And then is never seen again because they completely abandoned the storyline. This is a good introduction to Doctor Strange. It shows how self-absorbed he is and how he uses his profession to make himself look good. It also introduced the multiverse, which is used later in the MCU. I missed that the first time viewing it and didn't even notice it until this recent watching. I don't like that it involves time travel and that it doesn't work correctly, like the apple being eaten instead of just rotting because no one ate it, or like how the Crystal Gang can somehow overcome time being frozen, or how it works in the Dark World even though it's supposed to exist outside of time. The acting is pretty good. Benedict Cumberbatch is great as Dr. Stephen Strange. He can play the arrogant side of him and is also good at showing his change into a hero. Mads Mikkelsen is pretty good as Caecilius. He's really monotone the whole time, but I think that's just how the character is supposed to be. Although I didn't find his character very threatening as a villain. I mean, he couldn't even beat up a guy who has almost zero fighting training with 2 other people helping him. Tilda Swinton does a good job as the Ancient One. She talks the same way no matter what the situation she's in, but yet you can see the emotions in her performance. Like when Strange calls her out for using Dark World powers, and you can see her restraining her anger. The visual effects are fantastic. The mirror dimension looks cool with the breaks in space and how the buildings and streets bend in it. The Dark Dimension and Dormammu look pretty good, but I feel it's way too colorful for something called the Dark Dimension. The worst effect has got to be the portal doors. I don't know if they ran out of time or they didn't think anyone would notice or what, but it looks like they just took a default Windows background and cropped it into the doors. At least the Avengers have a wizard with the knowledge of the multiverse on their side now. I'm sure it won't turn into a complete catastrophe for them later. Don't forget to do the YouTube stuff, and thanks for watching.